So I'm just going to give you an example from each, and then if we have time, I'll do another round of examples from each. So the first one is identifying trig ratios. You are given 3 problems. There's no penalty, okay? So it's just review. If you get it wrong, just try again. So we are going to draw a right triangle. All right. Here's my best right triangle, and then we're going to label it with M being the 90-degree angle. So I'm going to label that corner as M, and then the others are K and L. So I'm just going to put K over here and L over here. You could switch the K and the L, it doesn't matter, but label it first before you start putting in the lengths. So now that I've labeled all 3 letters, I know that LK, which is this side because that's the side between L and K, that's 85. And then KM, so that's this side because it's between K and M, that's 13. And ML is 84. So between M and L, that's this side, this is 84. That is a really ugly 8. 84, good enough. So now we have a triangle with all the sides labeled. And then now we want to see what ratio means fraction, represents the cosine of K. So you might forget what cosine is. First of all, it's on your notes. So you can always look at the notes. But another thing that you should remember is so, ka, toa, which is the thing that is on your notes. And for cosine, you want to look at the C, the ka. That is your cosine. The C in ka stands for cosine. So CAH stands for cosine is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse, just in case you forgot. The A stands for adjacent. The H stands for hypotenuse. So in the SOHCAHTOA, it stands for cosine adjacent hypotenuse. So cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. K is our reference angle. That's this one over here. If you want the adjacent side, you're going to go look to the side of it. It's 13. So we have a bendy arrow over there. It's 13. And then over the hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is always directly across from the right angle. So if you were to draw an arrow directly across from the right angle, you would get the hypotenuse, which is 85. So our answer is 13 over 85. Hopefully that sparks some memories about how these things go. If you still need help later on, call me over in the breakout rooms. But for the sake of Monday's time, I'm just going to do one example of this for now. So our answer is the ratio 13 over 85. I'm going to go enter that in. 13 over 85. Okay, so that was one example for identifying trig ratios. Let me do an example for using trig to find a side. In this case, we have already a triangle drawn for us. And then it says all this. Oops, I need to screenshot this so I can write on it. Okay, it says all of this stuff. I'm not going to read that because it's already labeled. It says find the length of WX to the nearest tenth of a foot. So we want to find this side length, the side of WX. So the angle that they gave us is 38 degrees. That's over here. And then using this reference angle, we need to figure out X, is that the opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse side? And so this is directly across from the angle, so this makes it the opposite. And then we have the 8.2. The 8.2 is directly across from the right angle. So any side that is directly across from the right angle is also the longest side, also known as the hypotenuse. Okay, so we have the opposite and we have the hypotenuse. Now you have to refer back to SOHCAHTOA, and you have to ask yourselves, which one uses the O for opposites and the H for hypotenuse? Will it be the SO, the KA, or the TOA? Which one has the O and the H? And then you will see that that would be SO, because SO has the O and the H. So what does the S in SO stand for? That stands for sine. So sine of 38 degrees is equal to the opposite, which is the x, over the hypotenuse, which is the 8.2. Opposites over hypotenuse, because sine is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. So I put sine of 38 degrees is equal to x over 8.2. Now we're solving for x, and x is being divided by 8.2, so what you can do is multiply by 8.2 on both sides so that they cancel out. You will get 8.2 sine 38 degrees is equal to x. So on the calculator, I'm going to enter in 8.2 sine 38. 8.2 sine 38. So I'm going to go type that in. Let me look at the time. Wait, what time is class end? Okay, before I enter it in the calculator, are there any questions on this one? Sorry, I know I'm going really fast. It's just Mondays are weird. So I want to give you guys a chance to see if you have any questions. Hopefully it's looking familiar. Okay, no one typed a question. No one typed yes. So I think there's none, but if there are, please interrupt me. I would be happy to answer it. So I'm gonna go type this in the calculator now. Okay, so we said in the calculator 8.2 functions sine 38. Oops, 38, there we go. Then I get 5.048, 424,098, whatever, all of that. And we want to round this to the nearest tenth of a foot, it says. Find the length of WX to the nearest tenth of a foot. That means we want one decimal place in our answer. So in order to figure out what decimal that will be, is it 5.0 or 5.1? So in the calculator, it says 5.04. 4 is a small number. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 are small. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 are big. So we have 5.04, which means it's a small number. You keep it as a 5.0. 5.0. Any questions on that part? Okay, submit. Let's do one from the using trig to find angles. Okay, and finally here we have a triangle. I'm not going to read all of that stuff, but it says find the measure of angle I to the nearest tenth of a degree. So we want to find this angle. Okay, so that is our reference angle. Angle I is our reference angle, and we are given the 59 and the 89. So we must figure out, is this side opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse? Well, it is directly across from the angle. That makes it the opposite. And then over here for the 89, what is that one? It is directly across from the right angle, which makes it the hypotenuse. So then we have the O for opposite and we have the H for hypotenuse. From so, ka, toa, which is in your notes, you have to ask yourself which one uses O and H. O and H would be the so. So then what does so stand for? S stands for sine. So sine of x degrees is equal to the opposite over hypotenuse. Sine is the opposite over the hypotenuse. So the opposite was 59 over hypotenuse was 89. Sine of x is equal to 59 over 89. But we need to solve for x. So how do we get the angle? We are going to do the sine inverse. So on the calculator, the sign with a little -1 on it, that means sine inverse of 59 over 89. And that brings the x outside of the sign. So the sine inverse will give you the angle. Before I go type this into the calculator, are there any questions? Okay, so if there are, just type the word yes in the chat and I'll go back to the picture. But I think we're good on this 3 examples because the timing of the class is so short. I'm going to type this in now. Sine inverse of 59 over 89 So functions, sine inverse is this one, okay? The one underneath the sine. So the one with the -1. And then we go to 59 over 89. And it tells us 41.5230. What do we need to round it to? It says to the nearest 10th of a degree. So once again, we want 1 decimal place. So we look at the second one, 41.52. 2 is a tiny number, so it's just 41.5 as your final answer. Because the 0.52, because that 2 is very small, okay? So 41.5. All right, so there are 4 minutes left in class. I don't think that's enough for another round of examples, so I'm just gonna end the video here. If you need more help, office hours are today at 1:30, okay?